Hey there, cats and kittens, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you the third issue in the Blackest Night, Brightest Day subseries collection, Larfleeze, also known as Agent Orange. And I thought that was something I would point out right now off the top, that at the teaser trailer on the last episode for this figure, he was called Agent Orange, and even the name on the bottom of the figure says Agent Orange, but on the cover, you can see it goes by his real name, which is Larfleeze. He is, of course, the only Orange Lantern in the DC Universe. He was introduced during the Blackest Night, Brightest Day series. He's sort of interesting. I dig the color spectrum, I just don't necessarily dig every character in it. He is set to appear also in an upcoming episode of the new Green Lantern, the animated series on Cartoon Network, so watch for him there. But I am willing to guess that most of you have absolutely no idea who this guy is, which is why we're going to dive right in and cover the magazine, which will tell you everything you need to know about the character known as Agent Orange, or Larfleeze, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not necessarily one of my favorite characters in the DC Universe, but possibly one of my favorite figures in this sub-series collection, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the third issue in the DC Comics Superhero Collection Blackest Night, Brightest Day sub-series, Larfleeze. First up, the character section. Where we meet an alien thief known as Larfleeze, who hundreds of years ago was part of an intergalactic guild of thieves intent on pulling off the greatest heists ever recorded. On one such heist, they ransacked the treasures of an entire planet and stole a priceless box and a mysterious map. Larfleeze and his guild followed the map to a planet known as Okara, where they found an orange power battery. It was at that point the Guardians of the Universe and their Manhunters arrived to stop the fight and capture the power battery and the box that the Guild had stolen. The Guardians confessed they were only interested in the box that had been stolen, and would leave in peace to let Larfleeze and his accomplice fight over the power battery if they would give them the box. Decades later, Larfleeze is stirred from the planet Okara by a group known as the Controllers, who he mistakes for the Guardians of the Universe. Upset by this intrusion into his sector of space, he travels to the planet Oa to confront them, but is swiftly cast aside by the Guardian known as Scar, who is secretly working for the Black Lanterns. After discovering that there was an entire color spectrum of other power rings in the universe, Larfleeze sought out to steal one of every color, turning his attention first to the Blue Lanterns. He was also forced to flee his own planet of Okara when the Black Lanterns began to infest the universe, raising the corpses of every being that Larfleeze had once killed and initiated into his Orange Lantern Corps. Realizing there was no escape from the Black Lanterns, he reluctantly agreed to fight alongside heroes from the other color spectrums in exchange for a guardian of his own. After traveling to Earth with the other heroes in the color spectrum, Larfleeze's ring duplicated itself in order to find another greedy enough to be a member of the Orange Lanterns. It picked whom it deemed the most greedy person on the planet Earth, Lex Luthor. It also tells that Larfleeze and Hal Jordan, who had temporarily teamed up for a short time, were confronted by the villainous telepath known as Hector Hammond, who was intent on claiming the Orange Lantern for himself. It also tells how Larfleeze traveled with Wonder Woman to the City of Sin, Las Vegas, in order to track down the Starfire's entity of love, known as Predator. Next up, we have a few more stories from the Blackest Night event. First up, Blackest Night, Titans. And in this story, the Teen Titans are forced to fight against zombified versions of their former comrades when they learn that these black rings which are raining down from the sky are raising the dead. Beast Boy is forced to take on a zombified evil version of his ex-love, Tara. Donna Troy is visited by her dead husband and infant son, and the new Hawk and Dove, who are sisters, are forced to fight against the dead Hawk and Dove, who were brothers in life. It's a very creepy and well-written addition to the Blackest Night storyline. Next up, we have Blackest Night, The Flash. And this story finds the recently resurrected Barry Allen forced to suddenly fight against dead villains in his Rogues Gallery. He ends up teaming up with other villains from the Rogues Gallery, including Captain Cold and Mirror Master, to fight against these dead rogues. And Barry also temporarily joins up with the Blue Lantern Corps, using the Blue Light of Hope to fight against an evil, resurrected Anti-Flash. Finally, we look at Blackest Night, JSA. And this story finds the DC Universe's oldest team of heroes, who were founded in the 1940s, taking on a number of their fallen comrades, including the original Mr. Terrific and Sandman. Some of the members of the JSA are even forced to fight against their deceased family members, such as Jessie Quick and Power Girl. This story is literally a battle between heroic generations, and ultimately the new Mr. Terrific and Dr. Midnight devise a weapon that harnesses the current JSA's power to fight against these Black Lanterns, who are trying to destroy the Earth. The Iconography section details Larfleeze's Corps, sometimes called the Orange Corps. It details a little bit more about Larfleeze, his homeworld of Okara, that the orange color on the emotional spectrum stands for avarice, and how he can use his power ring to create avatars from the beings that he has killed, literally stealing their identities post-mortem. Finally, the Friends and Foes section features more members of the Black Lantern Corps, including Black Lantern versions of the Question, the Spectre, and Superman. And here we have Larfleeze, sometimes known as Agent Orange, the one and only Orange Lantern. And I'm not the biggest fan of this character necessarily, although I do love the concept of the color spectrum in the Green Lantern universe. Well, DC universe, I guess, but the whole Green Lantern storyline. But I really like the look of this statue, this figure. It's a really great interpretation. It's extremely faithful. And I like the alien characters. They're just so unique. It really breaks up the monotony of just standard humanoid, human people-looking figures, if you know what I mean. So that's why I'm a big fan of this Blackest Night, Brightest Day collection, because we get so many aliens, and Larfleeze here, as you can see, is definitely an alien. And there's really outstanding sculpt going on here. I love his pose, I love his posture. He looks greedy, he looks like a miser, like he's not going to let you take that lantern or his power away from him willingly. You know, he's going to keep it for himself. His one hand is really well detailed. He's got the orange ring on his finger, which is really nice. He's got the logos even on the shoulders, which is a great touch. The head sculpt, as you can see, is really neat. I love the tusks on the head, all the way down to the feet, which I love how his knees are buckled and his toes are pigeon-toed. His feet are pigeon-toed, I should say. They're turned inwards like that. It's just, you understand that the character is greedy and doesn't want you to come near him, or doesn't want you to take anything just from the pose alone, which I think is a great, great touch. Not crazy about the character, but really do love this figure. I think it's nice. The paint, too, is really great. But I'll talk more about what I do like and what I don't like. There are some things that I do not like, believe it or not, as much as I'm raving about this guy, in the next section here in just a moment. Larfleeze stands atop the Orange Lantern logo, and the bottom of the base has him named as Agent Orange and has his serial number. And so you can compare here, he is next to one-time Orange Lantern Lex Luthor, and a group shot with the other lanterns in the color spectrum that have already been released. Larfleeze, or Agent Orange, is actually a really nice figure. I wasn't expecting a lot because, as I said, I'm not a fan of this character necessarily, but the figure itself is very impressive. There are lots of great things going on here, and the good definitely outweighs the bad with this one. But as always, we'll start with the good. I think that sculpt is absolutely outstanding on this guy. The paint, too, is exceptional. The pose is really great. It gets his emotion across in the color spectrum, the fact that he is selfish and a jerk, basically. The feet are great. You can see the sculpt, how his musculature is there, but he's thin, he's lithe. I like that a lot. The way the toes are pointed inward, the way his knees are buckled, all the way up the back, and the paint, I want to point that out too. The orange paint on this guy is so fantastic. It's almost kind of a golden orange, and it has a great metallic fleck all the way through. It's not heavy in any one spot. It really looks perfect. Same with the black. It's a nice glossy black. Musculature all around his back is fantastic. The way he's hunched over, you can see he has the Orange Lantern logo on his chest. It is there, along with some sculpting on the chest too, lines on the suit and all that, so it looks a little bit padded. His hands are really great, and arms for that matter. The coloration is really nice. There's a great pigment to his skin. It's sort of this muddy brown sort of color, and the one hand that is up and over the lantern, every single finger is done on that hand, and they're really thin, really nicely detailed, and he does have his Orange Lantern ring on that finger. Even if it is just a little glob of paint, it is there. Also, the lantern, really nice. Great touch. Love that he's clinging to it that way. The handle is detailed, and how it's hanging underneath is really nice, and you can see inside of the lantern is that orange light burning, just like the Green Lanterns have, which is fantastic. Sinestro so far is the only one who has a lantern that doesn't have that detail. And the top of the lantern too has the Orange Lantern logo sculpted to it. And finally, the head sculpt, really exceptional on this guy. He looks basically perfect, straight out of the comic books. The details on the tusks are great. I love that little mohawk thing he has going. And again, the skin pigmentation is really fantastic, and it shows up very well on the head sculpt. You can see just differences in color, in texture, nice shading and shadowing, and the fact that his mouth is open, his teeth are done, and even his eyes, and he looks greedy, these beady little eyes staring out at you. He really is a fantastic figure. Moving on to the bad. The only thing I don't like about this figure is the fact that all the logos are stickers. They are all decals. The ones on his shoulders and the one on his chest. And although they do look very good and they are extremely accurate, it is disappointing that they're not painted on. I can totally see why I guess they wanted to do the chest with a sticker since it is hidden behind that lantern, but it is unfortunate. Finally, the ugly. The only thing I suppose you should watch out for would be that hand that's up and over the lantern with the fingers. You might want to check to see that they're not gnarled or bent before you purchase, otherwise he's a very solid figure. Overall, I'm very impressed with this guy, and I think it's because I wasn't expecting a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of this character, as I've said, even though I like the color spectrum idea. I'm not necessarily a Larfleeze fan, but it's cool having another villain. I consider him to be a villain, and it is neat having another colored lantern to add to that spectrum. Once we get even more into the mix, you'll see how cool he looks with all the different colors in that rainbow. But he's really neat. Is he for everybody? No, he's definitely not. He's for your Green Lantern fans, especially the fans of the Blackest Night, Brightest Day, and the whole New Guardians concept. But he is a really nice figure for what he is. I'm very impressed with him. I think you should add him to the collection. And he is the one and only Orange Lantern, so that's yet another good reason to pick him up, I think. But I hope you have enjoyed my review of Larfleeze, also sometimes known apparently as Agent Orange. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in the series. We're going back into the regular line again with issue number 86. It's a hero yet again. I guess you could consider him an anti-hero in some level, at least that's how he was first introduced during a series known as Kingdom Come, but he's a great character who got shortchanged, I feel, during the Final Crisis event. But we'll get there with the next issue. Please stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I'm your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.